Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, I'll show how you can build your own portable computer based on a Raspberry Pi. The end result will be a device that lets you browse the internet, watch movies, play games, and do pretty much anything you can do on a lightweight computer. Now, it is only a Raspberry Pi, so you won't be rendering the next Pixar movie or playing the latest GPU-intensive video games on it. But for most computer needs, it'll work just fine. So let's get started. The first thing we need, obviously, is the Raspberry Pi itself. I'm using a Raspberry Pi 3 Model B Plus because they have the best performance, but a normal Pi 3 would work for this too. Of course, you're not limited to using a Raspberry Pi, and I'll show how you can run other boards with this setup at the end of the video, including a full Windows 10 operating system. But all of the instructions here will be for the Pi 3. You'll also need an SD card. It doesn't have to be big, just enough to hold the operating system. I try not to keep any important files on SD cards because they can be pretty unreliable. So instead, I'll keep most of my files on a network storage device or in the cloud. You can also keep files on an external USB drive. But you will need to load an operating system onto the SD card. I've chosen to use the Raspbian OS because it's based on Debian Linux, which I'm a fan of, and it definitely has the best support as far as Raspberry Pi operating systems go. This step is as easy as downloading the Raspbian image and flashing it to an SD card. I used a program called Etcher to do the flashing. The next thing we need is a screen, and there are lots of options for this. Basically, any monitor that supports HDMI is what you're looking for, unless you go for one of the official DSi-based ones. I've chosen to use this Wymaxit monitor because it's 8 inches, it's got really good color depth, 1280 by 800 resolution, and it's micro USB powered. This is good because it doesn't require its own power adapter, just a USB cable and an HDMI cable. Plus it's really lightweight and has these stands that you can attach to it. Best of all, the Raspberry Pi actually fits perfectly in the back, so this is a really good option in terms of portability. I've left a link in the description for this exact screen, but again, any HDMI input monitor will work. Next, we need some form of user input. You could go all the way and get a USB mouse and keyboard, and for desktop usage, like if I were planning to write code or edit documents, this is probably the setup I would use. But it's not very portable. So if you only intend to browse the internet or watch videos, then a little wireless touchpad keyboard like this is a really good option. I've gone ahead and put a link in the description for this as well. The only thing we're missing now is some way to power all of this, and there are a few options here. If you know you'll be near an outlet, you could always power it with a micro USB adapter, or even a USB hub like this one. But if you want it to be even more portable, you might want to get yourself one of these USB power banks. These are basically big rechargeable batteries, and since you're only powering this little screen and a Raspberry Pi, it can last a pretty long time on one charge, depending on the size of your power bank. You could use just about any LiPo battery, but I like these power banks because they're already encased and they have a built-in charging circuit. Plus they usually have a visual charge indicator, which is really convenient. And that's basically all there is to it. Now you're ready to do your computery things. So how does it add up in terms of price? You'll probably pay between 100 and 150 US dollars, depending on the exact items that you use and where you get them. And yeah, you could buy a cheap laptop for around that same price range, so it might not seem worth it. But for me, there's a real advantage here, and that is that all of the components I'm using are completely modular. For instance, I've used this screen as a second monitor in a dual monitor setup on my laptop. It's just an HDMI screen, so you can use it in all kinds of situations. I've used this wireless keyboard as a remote for my media center to search for movies and play video games. And I use these power banks all the time to charge my phone or power other USB devices. So all of the parts here are useful on their own, and they can all be swapped out or upgraded without changing the system as a whole. In fact, you can even change the computer itself without changing the peripherals in your setup. Whenever the next Raspberry Pi comes out, you can use that in place of your Pi 3. Or you could use a different board altogether. For instance, here I've got all of these same parts connected to a LattePanda instead of a Pi. Now I can run a complete Windows 10 operating system. How cool is that? So for me, the flexibility and modularity of this setup definitely makes it worth the price. There are links in the description for all of the items I've used here in case you want to build something like this for yourself. While you're down there, go to the comments and let me know what you think about this setup or if you have any questions. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I just hit over 9,000 subscribers, and it would be really awesome to get all the way to 10,000. So help me out and hit that subscribe button, and until next time, bye!